do the best I can give it to you. 22 years in this tournament has made me proud. It's a streak that I plan on keeping as long as I'm alive, but it's one of the favorite things we've done. I said the day I got the job that if consistency could play a big part, then I was doing my job, and I think we have. I think it's safe to say that no one will have an easy road, but this team has been and shown tremendous mental toughness and resiliency all year. Seeding and bracket concerns are comparably minor topics when you really look at the big picture. Everyone always spends the first few days talking about the brackets, talking about the seedings, then shazam, the tournament starts and there's 10 upsets in the first 2 weeks and they're a week and a half, sometimes first week, and it all kind of evens out. This is what I've decided that I'm looking at. We are a championship team despite it having the smallest margin of error because we focused on what is immediately in front of us. We're going to do the same and focus on Bradley. On Bradley, I was very impressed as I watched them. I've seen them on TV a couple of times, didn't watch for it except when they played Loyola, just because Doug Wojcik kid signed at Loyola, so I was interested in watching that game, not thinking that we'd ever play Bradley. But I was impressed. They got some shooters, 3 of them. They've got a kid named Darryl Brown who is a strong, Mateen-looking light guard that can really shoot it from long range. A kid named Nate Cannell also shoots at any time in the building. And a forward named Childs who I think is long, athletic, 6'7", can do a lot of things, has a great mid-range game. This team also beat Penn State earlier in the year, beat Loyola in their conference tournament, so 2 teams that I have, great respect for. So, never easy in this tournament, and you worry about every single game, but I think at least in a short period of time we'll be very prepared for Bradley.
Tom, with Kenny and Matt, can you reflect on each of their journeys to get to the point where they're really key standout players for you?
Yeah, they've done a hell of a job. In one, I have a guy, as I've told you very often, who lives the game. Matt McQuaid has spent more time in this place than I have, and that's saying a lot. I think he's been a great guy, a great teammate, and a guy who's kind of changed. He's been became a defensive player. His offense has gotten stronger each and every year. He's finally healthy for the last year and a half, and because of that, I think he's improving as a shooter. He wanted the ball yesterday. I thought he passed up a couple in the first half. We let him know that at halftime, and I thought he really hunted some shots in the second half, and we needed to. And Kenny, nobody's maybe been more instrumental other than Cassius in the last 10 games. How he didn't play as good yet the other day, but if you look at his last 10 games, he's had an unbelievable run, both shooting the ball, defending the ball, rebounding the ball. He's been another great teammate. I think this team has been blessed with some good teammates, but those 2 are 2 of the best.
You mentioned you want to keep the focus on the short term, but bigger picture with this draw, where does this rank maybe with some of the other draws that you've experienced for this team, and just what your thought on the whole process is now for this?
Well, maybe that's the most important thing. I'm going to say this once, and I'm going to say it only once today, and then I'm moving on. In April, I might have a lot more comments on it. But, as I looked at there's bracketing principles. And bracketing principles led me to feel that, I have some issues with the overall bracket, but it's probably not quite what you think. I've been a member of the NABC. I've been on the board, which is our governing body, forever. Most of my career here, I've been the president of it and everything else. And our motto is, we're guardians of the game. So this really isn't about Michigan State only, it's about the game. I'm going to say it once, like I said, as coaches, the selection process continues to be a moving target, which I don't understand. You know, there was years ago that when I think Syracuse didn't get in, they talked about strength of schedule and this and that. And now every year there seems to be something different and more important. This one's, everybody's talking about the net. Does anybody in this room have any idea what the hell the net is? Well, I respect, all of you, some. But there's some guys on TV that have done this for a long time that I respect a lot. They don't know what the hell the net is. So it's not just you or me. Members of the media don't. And I think that you probably have the same questions I do. People say it has to change. Everybody says it has to change. As I've learned a little bit about the net, the biggest concern I have is creating an environment where margin of victory matters now. As a coach, there are three main things that I think are important in this selection. I've learned over the years who you schedule is one. That is a big one. Who do you schedule? And are you scheduling right? If you are, that's a plus. If you schedule right and win, that's even a bigger plus. And championships have to count for something. I mean, they have to count for something. That's what everybody's trying to do, win a championship, be better than anyone else in that league. And to win two of them, I think speaks volumes. My buddy Mariucci was with me all weekend. And I'll probably tick off a lot of people today in the basketball world. But I told him, football kicks our butt. And I mean that. I think they just have done a better job. They have made it a priority to get football people on the selection committee, whether it be former players, coaches, but there are people in that room that understand what an injury is. That when a guy comes back from an injury after 5, 6 games, everything's not the same the next 2, 3 games. So Mariucci had a good laugh on that. Finally, from a coaching perspective, I believe too much emphasis is put on this geography thing. I mean, we're all kind of, we're almost in the Jetsons era now where we just fly around. And difference of the emphasis shouldn't be placed on geography, but it should be placed on rewarding teams that have performed and what their performance is. We're splitting hairs over what we can be 10 more minutes in a plane, 100 more miles. So thank God, there seems to be a lot more people than me upset about it. But when I read things and see things from that committee, all I want, and I won't say another word about it, give me the 3 or 4 things that are most important. But we can take that net thing, and when one of those principles are if you win by more than 10 points, or you can't lose by more than 10. Do you remember a few years ago when football, people were beating people 60-0, 70-0, because one had to outdo the other? They got rid of that. That's why they're miles ahead of us. So we're creating an environment that isn't good for the walk-ons, isn't good for the 10th, 11th, 12th player on the team, isn't good for sportsmanship. Now, there was something that happened a week or 2 ago where I was playing somebody and my staff said, why don't you, leave Cash in there or Kenny in there because of one more rebound, he gets a double-double, one more assist. And the team we were playing, coach was in a little bit of trouble. So I'm not doing that. If that's what I got to do to get a higher seed or a better seed, shame on the profession I'm in. So I'm done with talking about that. I'm appreciative that I'm in the NCAA tournament. It's been 22 straight years, and not one of those 22 years have I taken anything for granted. And I think it's apropos that maybe this team has been through adversity all year, and so another curve's been thrown. And unfortunately, it's not the S curve. And I will play whoever they tell me to play. I will play them any place. anytime, just like I've done my entire career. But it is hard to figure out, because of this changing of the guard in this selection committee, what they want from us. So if someone would give me the 3-4 things they want, I'll adhere to those and never say another word. So, I'm going to get back to Bradley. Be glad to get back to Bradley.
Back to Bradley.
Right.
Going back to last summer, finish the job, I think it was kind of the mantra for this team. How much has the last 3 NCAA tournament first weekend exits been kind of a motivating factor for you and for the team?
You know, they've been, but, you know, I get a kick out of, you know, out of the way people perceive things, you know, like they haven't done this in this length of time, and they've done this in this length of time, and every team's different. And, you know, speaking of that, you know, you go back to 15, we're in the Final Four, and 16, I think we were number 2 seed then, and, you know, everybody questioned whether Middle Tennessee was a 15 seed. And I can't worry about those things. This team is not looking at that year's team and saying, oh boy, they lost to a 15 seed, maybe it's going to happen again. I mean, you guys got to be smarter than that too. You know, when I see that stuff on TV, I heard one coach say, well, that was 15 years ago, you know. I mean, who cares, you know? The motivation 2 years ago, hey, we're lucky to get in the tournament with the number of injuries we had. That should be starred. That should have been an accomplishment that year, instead of you were out in the first weekend. And then last year, you know, enough said. So motivation is for this team to accomplish what I think this team can accomplish. And I'll be honest with you, at the beginning of the year, I did not think this team would be where we're standing. I thought we could be a very good team. I didn't think we could end up an elite team that won 3 championships. We had a chance to win 3 championships this year. And this is not looked at enough that it should be. The championship in Vegas, the championship in the Big Ten, and the championship in the Big Ten tournament. I'm not sure I've had many teams that have won all 3, if any. And I'm not sure that there's many teams out there that have won both the regular season and the conference championship and are still in the top couple seeds. So we've accomplished a lot. Now I know, because I set this standard, you're going to be judged on what you do in March. March has been pretty good so far. You know, it's not just one thing in March. It's all the things in March. Because that tells you you're playing some of your best basketball at the end of the year. And that's what everybody hopes to do. Get better, take your beatings early. That's been our motto here. And see if you can get better each and every day. You know, I said, looking back on that game, you know, I gave Michigan a lot of credit because they deserved a lot of credit. But, you know, maybe a little too much when I say that we didn't play very good. First 10 minutes of that game, we played pretty good. The next, maybe 16, 18 minutes, I thought they all played us by a lot. You know, the injury had something to do with it. The foul trouble with Xavier had something to do with it. But they deserve the credit. But for us to bounce back and come back against a very high-quality team, I mean, I think we're ranked in the top 10 all 3 times we played them. I just think speaks volumes about our guys. My coaching staff had to make a lot of adjustments. But as I always say, players play the game. And those players, what Cassius did, you know, what X came back and did, what McQuaid did, you know, we'll get a lot more out of Nick. That was tough to come back. He played very well in the first 2 games and, you know, got in some foul trouble, which is normal. And then this last game, it was a tough matchup, especially when Michigan went real small, putting Livers at the 5. It created some dilemmas defensively that we had to adjust to. But what this team has accomplished has been phenomenal. Now they go on to the next task and try to accomplish something in the NCAA tournament. You've had a chance for 3 championships. We're 3 for 3. And so why not go for the 4th?
Tom, I did 2 things real quick. Wondered if you had any update on Kyle, just if there was any.
Yeah. I really don't, except that it's a very, very bad sprain. And You know, like he's come back from the dead a couple times, but I am guessing that he's done. I mean, you know, something could happen where that thing, I don't know, there's some miracle cream or something, you know. I guess I better get on the QVC network or whatever that network is and see if I can find something. But for the most part, I think he's probably done for the season.
And then the way Matt kind of seemed like he took off after that point. I'm thinking back to some guys in their senior years that have kind of just gotten to this other level this time. You remember Travis Trice a few years ago. Just it was almost like they knew this is it. It's here now. Do you sense that kind of coming with Matt, or is?
Well, you know, it was funny. Two guys were really affected by that injury. Matt has been his roommate for 4 years, and I'll never forget when I told Arnie maybe he should be done. We sat him out of that one game, and he said, all I want to do is help Matt and Kenny win a championship. The other guy, whether you saw it or not, but Nick Ward is his roommate on the road, and it was just a different side of Nick that I've ever seen, and appreciated the way he handled it, but was upset about it because he was visibly upset with what had happened. And like I said, those two are from the same area, and they might be the odd couple, but that odd couple has got an incredible bond and relationship. And so, you know, if McQuaid now can step it up, I mean, the battle cry after that was, let's go win this for Arnie. You know, I guess you always need battle cries. I got 100 of them, so that one seemed to have a little more importance. And I could tell at halftime when he came back in and said it wasn't broke, and at least smiled, because I think he felt like his whole career was over. That was uplifting. And when he came back out on the court after he, you know, got his ankle taken care of the best they could, that was real uplifting for us. So maybe Matt can take that and bottle it. You are right, though. Travis Trice had kind of one of those, got better at the end of the year, and made an incredible run in the tournament.
Similar, you know, you talk about the back half of a career and that, but you guys in the second half of games have been outstanding offensively for the most part, and been able to summon up the runs that you needed. What makes this team able to make those adjustments down the stretch and the resolve that they have? Is there any defining traits or any reason?
Yeah, you know, when Mariucci was in there, Mariucci always, because he's got my card from the Final Four, you know, I write up a card of what I'm going to say to the team, and go over the offense, defense, and keys, and I just leave it there, throw it away. You know, Mariucci's one of those save everything guys, so he's got my card from the Final Four, so he says, are you saving those cards? I said, no, I don't save those cards. So he took it like a true Uper, you know, he probably thought there's value in it, and but I should call him because I'm not doing a very good job with those cards at the beginning of the game. Like maybe the halftime speeches or whatever are better, so I got to reverse that, because I would agree with you. But I think it really is a lot Cassius. Cassius is such an unselfish kid that sometimes he drives me crazy, and Matt is right there with him. I thought both guys passed up some shots the first half. You know, that's what made Cassius so special, is he's so efficient because he doesn't force a lot of things. And sometimes, like I told him at halftime, okay, you know, we shared it, we did everything, it's your time, you know, and we kind of told Matt the same thing, and, you know, but there's been times it was Kenny. So I don't know if it's we're waiting for somebody else to do it. It'll be a good thing we'll probably talk about today. But I couldn't agree more. We have seemed to be better in the second half. And yet, as long as I've been in this game, you know, that halftime score never matters. So if I had to choose, would I rather be better the first half or the second half? I think I'll stick with the second half, because that when he hit 0, that's the one that matters.
Got time for a couple more.
Right here. After that weekend Aaron had, it just sort of seemed like he took a lot of steps in a lot of different ways with his game. what sort of will be your focus with him this week, moving into his first tournament, and just what do you sort of want him to emphasize as he's kind of still growing here game to game?
Yeah, he is still growing, and you know, he's bought into the defense, and he's become one of our better defenders. In fact, when we moved him on to Brazikis, I thought that changed some of the game for us. You know, continue to work on his shooting, and I think one thing, you know, when he can get to the lane whenever he wants, and maybe to figure out how to kick it out some, try to get Matt Cassius some shots from him. He's a pretty good passer. He has a pretty good understanding of the game. I think would help, but you know, we're going to have to reinvent the wheel again in a little bit of a way now with, you know, getting Nick more in there and getting, and unfortunately not having Kyle. You know, Kyle hit a big three yesterday, and he's just, everybody feels comfortable with Kyle in the game, that he knows what he's doing. So, you know, we're probably going to have to reinvent it today in a walkthrough and a film session, and tomorrow, because there won't be a lot of practice time because of the situation we're in.
Tom, this weekend at the tournament, one of your opponents said that your team was relentless, that the sum of your parts is better than your parts, and that you can knock them and you can beat them like Rocky, but they just keep coming. Is that the best compliment a Tom Izzo team can get?
I was, you know, I hope to be relentless. You know, I don't think this team's as physically tough as some that I've had, but they may be more mentally tougher than a lot that I've had. And I probably don't give enough credit to some of the physical toughness. I mean, Cassius is, you know, what he's played through, and, you know, Xavier and Nick are pretty tough guys, and Kenny, for a guy that I wouldn't have put in that, you know, leads us in rebounding, so maybe the coach doesn't know what the hell he's doing. I think there's a lot, and the sum of the parts is a good way to say it. I think that the togetherness, the trust, you know, I think there's two words that I use. I use them on my rivalries sometimes. I use them in different areas, you know. You don't always have to like people, but you have to respect people. You don't always have to like people, but you have to trust people sometimes if you're on a team. And I think those two words, if we accomplish anything left, those two words should be somewhere with us, because the respect for each other and the trust for each other has been off the charts. And that's, I think, what's gotten us through.
You might have just sort of answered the question I was going to ask, Tom, is you said you didn't think this team would be this good at the start of the year, could be this elite. What has transpired, or what has happened, and what is unique about this team that it went from something you didn't expect it to be to what it is? What's unique about it?
Selfless, almost to a fault, you know, selfless. And that comes from our best player, you know. He's just a selfless kid who, you know, I mean, I think he cares about winning the most. I know he doesn't care about his stats the most. And that's not the norm in this Twitter era that we live in. And he exemplifies it. Then when you have two seniors like Matt and Kenny, who are double selfless kids, that there is no question in my mind every day they come to the gym. Winning is the only priority. And then, you know, you added in some other guys. I mean, we still can get a lot better. Say what you want. Don't judge what happened on Sunday, anything to do with Nick. I mean, I think this week he'll grow a little bit more. He looked pretty good against Wisconsin, and I think we can get better with him. And so we've got some parts that fit in. We got a low post scorer, got a great defender in Xavier. We got, you know, Kenny Goins has improved his shooting. That really took another step. Matt had improved his defense. And then we had some guys that just kind of fit in, you know, into the puzzle. Unfortunately, Arnie was one of them. I mean, guys loved Arnie, as you can tell on the floor. I mean, he gave us every single thing he had. I mean, every time I walked down to him every day. When he was down there either riding a bike or he's down at the end of the bench standing up because he can't sit down. I mean, it's almost a joke. And what's a joke about it is he's the most real kid I got. So, you know, everybody plays the injury so they can get a date that night or something. You know, everybody wants sympathy. Not him. You know, he's getting married. He don't need a date, and he doesn't care. I mean, he just cares about winning. And I think because that has started to come all year long, and then which is an important part of this bracketing and everything. You know, winning championships matter. When we won that championship in Vegas, it gives the guys a different feel. You know, it's just a little Thanksgiving tournament, but I always put a big emphasis on those because when you win a championship, you had to do something on a continuous basis until you're done with that tournament. And there's not a lot of margin for error in that, and that's, I think, how we started to grow in that. And I think, like I said, this team has confused me a little bit too, you know. I didn't think we'd be as good defensively. I didn't think we'd be as good a rebounding team. And pretty soon, we're in the top 10 most of the year in offensive efficiency. We're in the top 10 most of the year in defensive efficiency. We're still, you know, one of the better rebounding teams in our conference and even the nation. And just to let you know, we're not perfect. We're still one of the worst turnover teams. And yet the games that we haven't turned it over, which again was Sunday, we've had some incredible victories over some real good teams.
One final one here.
Tom, I was wondering, after what you've seen this weekend, how is Nick doing from a conditioning standpoint? And how can his role sort of be defined for this first weekend?
But the truth, not mine, not yours, not Nick's. You know, Kithier struggled a little bit, like freshmen do, so why wasn't Nick in there? Well, Michigan did a good job. They went to Livers at the 5, and then Michigan, we had some special coverages that we've been working on for weeks, and it was unfortunate the weeks Nick was out. And so when Xavier got in foul trouble, we just felt like between the two things that happened, we had to go a little bit of a different way. And Nick's conditioning isn't where it needs to be yet. And that's pretty normal. We're getting 3.5 weeks off. But I think there's going to be a big emphasis today now. Last week we were still worried, is he even going to be able to play? You know, as we know, our engineering department did a heck of a job putting this little deal together for him, and we didn't know until he played in games and when he got hit what that would do. So it's hard to make him a focal point, and then all of a sudden he's out again. Well, now I think we throw caution to the wind, and I think we can really work hard on getting Nick involved. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of practice time to do that, but I believe getting a rotation with those 3 in there. You know, Xavier, as good as he's been playing, man, he was screening the other day and rolling, and hell, Judd would have got to the rim before Xavier did on a couple of them. You know, he was tired. You know, we played Kenny 40 minutes. I mean, you can say you can do that, but there's going to be some things you pay for when you do that. So I think getting Nick back in the regular rotation will help. And then, you know, what do we do at the 3? You know, Gabe's going to get some looks, and we could put Kenny there some. He's capable of playing there. So it'll be another, you know, let's see what we can do. But as I said, with all the adversity and all the things, since it's happened since Matt got hurt in the first 2 weeks of the season, I think it wouldn't be right if we didn't have this at the end of the season. So we're going to use that as a, you know, something to hang our hats on and say, you know, some people go through adversity for a month or 2 in parts of the season. And we've kind of gone through it the whole season. So let's finish the season in this adversity and go out and win the weekend. And that's the only thing we're focused on, is winning this weekend. And we're gonna focus on it Thursday, hopefully Saturday, and we'll come home with another set of goals. So I appreciate it. Thanks.
Ripped it off on the trainer.
Nick Ritchie came over to